How'd you end up working with Steely Dan?
From what they told me was Donald Fagen uh, saw something on me, went out and bought the instructional videotape of mine, and it hit him so hard that he called up Walter. Walter lived in Hawaii somewhere, and he said, I got the drummer for us." And of course, at that time, they were toured 21, 22 years. And he tells Walter, "Well, I found the drummer. If anybody, I got the drummer and the bass player. The bass player was going to be Tom Barney, and the drummer was going to be Dennis Chambers." All right, so and he says, "Well, look, yeah, I'm going to put something in the mail for you to see." He didn't tell him he was sending him the video. Walter could have easily sent somebody out in Hawaii to get the video. But he sent the video to Walter. Walter agreed that I was the drummer. So they somehow management found me, and they called me up. You know, what I would like to work with Steely Dan. And I'm going like, yeah, because I got this serious history. I mean, I love Steely Dan's music, and I remember, my thing going back to them. It was like when I first heard Asia, and Asia was like a big hit. Excuse me, I'm sorry. By the time, when it became a big mega hit, they would play it at a certain time in the morning, right before I would go to school. Right, so when I take my shower and I go back in my bedroom and get dressed, I have the radio on, and Asia would be playing. You can set your watch actually to play it. And then I look at the clock. Sure enough, it was every day at the same time. And I run downstairs. By the time I get down there, and I hear Gad's soloing out of the thing. And I was such a big fan, and I knew I was listening to a masterpiece. And it was one of those songs I could listen to that thing all day. And I listened to the ride out, and then when it, went to where I couldn't hear it anymore, I would open the door. My sister and I would run out the door and try to get the bus. And a lot of times I would miss the bus. I end up running behind it. Then sometimes I would catch up with the bus like maybe 2 or 3 stops later, and it all depends on how many people got on that bus for me to catch it. So now here I am. I'm playing with Steely Dan. Now, when I realized I couldn't work with him, but I held on to the gig as long as I could. But I had this commitment with John McLaughlin, and I know I couldn't make the tour, but I didn't say anything to Steely Dan at the time. Just praying that something would happen for me that I could do this tour. It didn't work out, so I had to call him back and call the office back and say, "Hey, look, I can't make this tour. I have a prior commitment that I have to honor," and they understood. And then they hired Peter Erskine. He was the drummer of the band, and Peter and I, were friends. And I somewhere on the tour that they were out on, I would get these faxes from the office, and they were asking me, like, when can I do the tour? When I was getting these faxes, I already thought I was down and out of the whole thing of it. So I gave them the window frame of the following year, or I should have said the upcoming year. At a certain month, I could do it from this to this, and thinking that they would just leave me alone. But they said, the next fax I get back says, "Okay, I talked to Walter and Donald, we'll take it." Oh my God, you're serious? So I already, then I had to call up John to make sure that John McLaughlin would make sure that time frame we were going to have off is what it was. He said, "Yeah, we're going to definitely be off." So I told him what was going down, And he was like, great, you know, like, okay, man, that sounds great, you know, go out and do the tour. And that was the first phone call I made was to him. The second phone call, I had to call Peter up and explain to him what had happened. And because I wanted to make sure he knew. And if he had any weird feelings about it, then I wouldn't do the tour. And he was okay with it. He said, hey, man, you know, if you don't do it, then they'll get somebody else. And I'm like, yeah, well, true that, you know, but they just want to make sure, you know, there's no bad feelings. It's no, there's no bad feelings. Like, you know, if they don't want me being there, then, you know, that's their right and it's their band. And, you know, he was working so much anyway, he could easily fall into doing something else.
Well, it sounds like you worked it out and they were level-headed about it. So, yeah.
But the crazy thing was they never told Peter straight up. And they went to Japan with Peter, and they had a farewell party, you know, because they knew, I mean, Steely Dan had fulfilled their commitment with their tour, and they had a party for Steely Dan, and that's when Peter found out, outside of myself, I called him, he found out he wasn't going to be the drummer anymore. And it was a promoter, somebody told the promoter, and the promoter yelled out real loud, what? Peter's being fired? You know? And then all of a sudden they said it sounded like a record had scratched across the record. It was dead silence. And, you know, Pete already knew. So.
And you played with Santana. What was that like?
Man, you know, I was supposed to join Santana in 80, I think it was 86. Chester Thompson, the drummer, was working with it. So they had two Chester Thompsons in the band. Keyboard player that played with Tower Power, and the drummer that played with Genesis. You know, and Chester's from Baltimore, so I knew him very well. He recommended me for the gig, and they hired me. The management, I think Bob, I can't think of his name, big promoter too.
Cavallo?
Huh?
Cavallo?
No, he owned Fillmore West and East. Big promoter, you know. He was the one that got them the Woodstock gig, sent them to Woodstock.
Not Bill Graham.
Bill Graham.
What was Bill Graham?
I can't believe I can't remember these names all of a sudden. But Bill Graham called me himself and asked me to join the band. And I'm like, sure, I would play. And then they hired me. Before the week was out, they fired me. And I never got a chance to rehearse or do anything with it. Well, come to find out, Santana didn't feel like rehearsing, and he found Graham Lear and hired him because Graham Lear knew the book. So they fired me and hired Graham Lear to play. And years went by, and I'm working with John McLaughlin, and we did Mantra, and we had opened for Santana. And Santana, I think, and I kind of remember him telling me, he saw me at the gig, you know, and by the time I already had a little name for myself, and he, after the show was over with, he called me up and asked me to come to his room. So Joey DeFrancesco and I went down to his room, walked to his room. And we talked, man. We talked about everything, about life and religion and, you know, all kind of stuff. You know, Coltrane. And that's when I found out he loved Coltrane and he loved Miles and all those guys. And we must have talked till the sun came up until it was almost time to go. Because I remember I had enough time to go to my room, open my suitcase up, and took one arm and swiped everything into the suitcase. I didn't have time to pack it properly and to get downstairs to make it out to the bus. And I told Carla, I told John, and Joey and I, because Joey was a little late, And I was like, well, Joey and I was up at Carlos's room talking about stuff. Blah, 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 blah. And I think it was like 2 days later, I called my wife up, and my wife told me that some guy named Kevin Chisholm had called from the Santana's office, and he wanted me to call him right away. I'm like, well, that's crazy. I just talked to Santana 2 nights ago, actually 1 night ago, and I'm like passing that off like maybe he was trying to get a hold of me before that, and then he called back again at the house again, trying to get my phone number, where to call. So she called back and said, that guy called again, and he wants you to call him, and he wants you to call him immediately. So I called up Kevin, and now we're playing catching my mouse phone tag on the phone. And I finally got a hold of him, and he says, hey, buddy, how you doing? I'm like, yeah, well, I'm doing fine. What's up? He goes like, well, Carlos wants you to join the band. I'm like, okay, well, when? He says, now. I was still on tour with McLaughlin. I'm like, what do you mean now? He says, no, right now. He wants you to join the band right now. I'm like, well, I can't do that. I'm out on tour with McLaughlin. I just can't up and leave McLaughlin like that. He understood. And he says, well, okay, well, I'll tell Carlos. And, maybe we could do some work somewhere down the road later. I'm like, yeah, sure, but sorry, I can't walk out on my brother like that. And years go by. I think 2 years go by. Supernatural came out. And the record blew up, of course. And Carlos decided he's going to take a year off, just to rest up, give a fresh start on a new Supernatural tour that they had started working prior, before he stopped. And they did a video where all the guys who performed on the record was also in this video. So he called me up personally himself that day. And he says, hey, how you doing, Mr. Chambers? This is Carlos Santana. And at that time, I was doing a clinic with Billy Sheehan. And he called up, and I talked to him. He was like, how do you feel about coming out and do some recording for me? I'm like, yeah, sure. When? He told me when. I'm like, I checked my books. I'm like, yeah, sure, I can make it. And I was like, well, hold on a second. I'm going to pass you the phone to another guy who idolized you. And I passed the phone to Billy, and Billy talked to him for a minute. And Carlos was gracious enough to talk to him. He wasn't tripping. And Carlos, he's a real nice guy. He talked to anybody, he talked to everybody, that felt like there wasn't a threat to him. And then Billy, after Billy said what he had to say, he passed me back the phone. He said, okay, good. Well, I have management to call you tomorrow or day after tomorrow. And when we can figure out, make sure that the recording time is going to be what it is. I have management to call you and tell you, exactly when, and we'll get the tickets and, get all the procedures rolling. So I went out to San Francisco. I found myself at Fantasy Studios with him. And I'm looking like, wow, this is the great Fantasy Studio where Coltrane and everybody recorded, and all this history. At the beginning of Santana was recorded right here. The beginning of Journey was right here. All these things happened right here. And then we're on a break, or somebody was doing something, maybe a bass, Benny Barryfeld, maybe he had to do something with the bass, or somebody was doing a pass. And I'm out back smoking a cigar. I was smoking cigars back then. Carlos comes out. Hey, Mr. Chambers, how you doing? It's going to be great to have you in the band, for next year. And I'm looking at him like, what are you talking about? Nobody said anything to me about joining the band. I didn't say anything. I just looked at him like he was talking Mars gibberish. And next thing I know, when he took a couple of hits off my cigar, He goes back into the room, and then Kevin comes out and he goes like, "Hey man, the gig is yours if you want it, and Carlos really loves you." And that's how I found out I was in the band. And then I came in and I'm trying to figure out how to play with two great percussion players, Raul Recall and Carl Perazzo, and try to make spaces for them to do what they do, not to stand on their toes. And yet they were doing the same thing for me. So again, we're trying to figure out how to make that work, because I never played with two percussionists before, especially as somebody of their greatness. Raul was a phenomenal conga player. He was a phenomenal conga player. He died not long ago. And Carl Perazzo was one of the greatest involved players out there. So, and here I am, like sandwiched in between these guys, and they accepted it, and they won. There was no tricks and no, none of that. They knew that, I had a unbelievable thing that I had to pull off, because every day Carlos is throwing music at us, even at the rehearsals. I mean, they gave me like 2 or 3 CDs of music. I think it was 2 CDs of music. I had to learn this stuff, and I'm learning it. And when I got to rehearsal, we didn't play none of it. Carlos pulled out another CD that we had to learn. And I'm going like, oh my God. So now I got to like kind of get that other, get this other thing out of my head that I learned and concentrate on this. And every day it was like, learning new stuff every day. Every gig, we were going over new music. Some music we didn't play, some music we did play. And then if it's not that, then he would go over stuff maybe somebody made a mistake, in the song, and you just want to make sure that was cleared up. But every day it was like a 2-hour rehearsal, maybe an hour and a half to 2 hour rehearsal before the gig, that I thought was unnecessary. But hey, he paid the bills. It was his band, so.
I'm thinking. You've played with so many guys and such a huge repertoire overall of tracks and songs. Do you kind of remember most of them in terms of what you did or what you want to do? Or if you have to play, say, something you did on a Scofield record 20 years ago, you'll just feel it today and go with what you feel now? Or do you try to remember and replicate what you did years ago?
Yeah and no. I mean, excuse me. I remember sitting there with George Clinton one night, and I remember. But when I sat down behind the drums and they said what the song was, my mind is going back like, what was the beginning of the song? Because again, when I left the band, I left that stuff. The last time I played it, I left it there. And now my mind is racing back on what song that was, who counted it off, and if there was a certain fill I had to play, go into it. I'm trying to remember. And I counted it off, and I remember my hands like fell right into memory mode, where I start off the drum fill, tear the roof off the sucker, and I'm playing. And all of a sudden, as I get to what are the key parts of the record or of the arrangement, I remember what it was. But prior to it coming up, I couldn't remember what it was. But it was coming up, it's like the hands just fell where they made. And I'm sitting there going, "Shoot, man, I made it through that one." But then, I remember, even with working with Scofield, where we did we had a reunion gig one time, not a couple of years back, in New York, and we had a rehearsal. But even at the rehearsal, my hands, just came back to what those things were. Now I may have played it differently, but then that was okay, because every night we played those songs, we played it differently. We just played it, make sure the arrangement was right. The same thing with P-Funk. called the Funkadelic. And when we played those songs, we played the same songs every night. We never played them the same.
When was the very last time you played with P-Funk?
I think that was in 86, I think.
Back then.
It was shortly after the Saturday Night Live did. Shortly after that, we did like I said, we went to Germany. And that was the last time, and I think that was all in 86. 86.
You played with both Victor Wooten and Stanley Clarke. How do their styles differ? I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot. I was tempted to and ask you who's better, but they're different, I guess. But how do they differ, those two?
Well, if it wasn't for Stanley Clarke, there would be no Victor Wooten.
Right.
You know, if it wasn't for Larry Graham, there would be no Victor Wooten. There would be no Marcus Miller. And it's not a question of who's better. It's like they're both. Everybody has a certain way of doing things, and they're all just as great. It's just that they just do things differently. Now, Victor came along a time, where, the bass chair needed a shot in the arm, just like Stanley Clarke when he came on the scene. It was a shot in the arm to the bass players. New blood to it. And same thing with Jocko. Jocko and Stanley came out around about the same time almost. And although Stanley has a bigger history of playing with different bands, see, a lot of people don't know he was with Lifetime, and he was also with Art Blakey's band, and all these different bands. He was also in the same band with. A lot of people don't know that Tony Williams and Art Blakey had a band together, and Stanley was a part of that. Stan Getz band. It was Stanley and Chick and Tony Williams. So he played, he did a lot. He did a lot more playing with different people than Jocko. Although, that don't make Jocko no slouch, because Jocko definitely brought the bass to the party as well. Well, same thing with Victor Wooten and because Victor loves Stanley. He loves Stanley. He loves Marcus. He loves a lot of bass players. Victor's more of a spiritual kind of guy. When you talk to him, he's got a great head on his shoulders. I have never seen anything bother him, and yet he's leading these things. Right now, he's in Europe. I talked to somebody this morning. He was in Europe trying to finish up some things there, with his brothers. And you mentioned, I don't think I've ever heard him say a bad word about anybody. I can't remember him saying a bad word about anybody.
And both he and Stanley and you were on Bootsy's most recent record. So although you didn't go back and play again with P-Funk, you were on projects by Bernie Worrell, Bootsy, and Maceo, right? So you kind of kept in with those guys. Can you speak to those relationships or records at all?
Well, I mean, I love Bernie. Bernie is a special soul. And I love Bootsy. Bootsy is just funny as all get out. And Bootsy is, the guy is so funky. You would you had to play with him. Bernie, was like, I loved him, because he was another one of those, he was cut from a different mold. Bernie, when the Lord made Bernie, he threw away the key, such as the same thing with George Duke. And, there are people like that where, Bootsy Collins is like that, where when you're working with them, it's a whole different thing there. They hire you to come in and do it, they trust you to do what you do. And when they like what they hear, they show it, where they didn't have any egos, where, they like what they hear, and they feel it on the inside, but they don't show no emotions on the outside. I remember working with George and Bootsy, where I'm doing some things, and Bootsy's got this big smile. You can see all his teeth in his mouth, and he's like, "Yeah, Baba," he's going through that thing, and he looked at me and he was like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "Well, I feel like I could do one more. I think I got one more better." And he was looking at me, "You sure?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He said, "Well, go on out there and do it." Where somebody else, like some guitar players I recorded with, the only thing they care is about themselves. Or they got the tape and they feel they got the better tape that they can play over, and they're going to keep that tape. Now, however, by them keeping that tape, there's, like I got one day to record how many tracks, where they spend a month on one song doing a solo. So they make sure their thing is perfect, but they didn't give a crap about your performance, other than it's got to be right and it's got to feel good. So you may have like 1 to 6 shots at it at each take.
Well, you did a number of records under your own name, so did you turn the tables at all when your name was on the record?
No.
No.
I had a great producer, Jim Beard. Jim is like a genius. And Jim I think he turned the tables on all of us, especially at the last record where, he was doing like 16 takes. And I was like, Jim, there's no way in the world you're going to sit there and listen to 16 takes of these songs. And sure enough, he did, man. He sit there and listened to it, stuff, walked his way through all of it, and found the perfect take of, of the best performance of me and everybody else, and chose those takes. Yeah. It was like, man, I would get tired of doing takes. Yeah.
Wow. So what are you working on right now in terms of, I know you're touring so much. Are you still in the studio or recording studio cuts or?
The last thing I did was with Osnoy, and he canceled a week before the tour ended. It was in Russia, due to some things that was going on with him, and so it allowed me to spend like 4 or 5 days at home. And I had to turn around and go to Paris to play at this thing called the drummer's something. The bag show. It was called the Bag Show. That's what it's called. Bag Show. And I was on it there, and not knowing I was going to be on it. I was with Manu Katché and a very few others. And I guess the reason why I was on it because of the body of work that I've done that required me to be a legend player. To work with all these great people, and these great people, back and forth across the fence. You put up a fence, you got your jazz side, you got your fusion side, you got your Latin side, you got your pop side, and you got your rap side. So I did all of these things, and did them well, as far as I know. And so they honored me there. And
congratulations on that.
Yeah. And I came home and did tour that Paris clinic. It kind of just took its toll on my body, because we were getting up at 4:30 in the morning to be downstairs at 5, or to leave the hotel at 5:30. This is during every day, including the day off. Which it was like by the time we get to we get in the car, we take a 2.5-hour drive to our hotel, to the airport. And of course, once we get to the airport, you know what that's about. That's man. And then you find yourself getting to the gate, and you get to the gate, and the plane may be late. And to get to your final destination of airport, and then you got to get your luggage, and then you get to the hotel from there. At the hotel, maybe another hour and a half to an hour or 40 minutes, or maybe 2 hours drive. We go do this every day. So by the time I get to the airport, get to the hotel, it was a question that I sleep or eat. And I chose to sleep. I need to sleep because I knew if I didn't sleep, I would be no good to anybody. And I figured, well, I'll eat later if I have to. And I lost a lot of weight, by doing this, by not eating. And by the time I got, when I was able to eat, I couldn't eat because it was late night. And I refused this, eat something, have something on my stomach late night, and not being able to like, burn it off. And the cause of that, the result of that is like I lost a lot of weight. And it's like my arms, it's like I have no muscle tone here. Face, I got a little bit of muscle tone, but all this that I'm grabbing right now is just all flab, And my face had shrunk and all that stuff. It almost looked like the days when I had my downfall. People would look at me and go like, "Man, something's wrong with you." I'm like, "No, it's nothing wrong with me. I just need to, I need to eat and gain some weight back."
Mm.
But when I get back from this next run, I'm definitely going to see a doctor to make sure everything is on the up and up. Because the last time I was in the hospital last year, I think it was last year, maybe it was early this year, I can't remember, because time is flying by so fast. I was in the hospital, and I had no strength. I had no strength at all, man. It was like, I remember getting to the airport in Baltimore, taking my suitcase out and put it on a luggage stand or a luggage stand.
A cart?
Luggage cart. And I can see where its count is. And before I get there, I had to stop and rest a little bit. And then I would walk it straight up to the counter. Or by the time I get to the counter, it felt like my heart was in my throat. So I knew something was wrong. Well, I made a deal with the Lord. If you let me, get through this Japan tour, when I get back, I'll go see a doctor. Well, thank God I did, because I remember I saw my doctor on a Friday. Saturday morning, around 6:30, 6 something in the morning, she called my wife up and scared her out of herself, and she woke me up and said, "Your doctor on the phone. She needs to talk to you." And I get on the phone. I'm like halfway asleep, halfway awake. She says, "Mr. Chambers, you need to get to the hospital right now." And I'm like, "Well, what is this about?" She says, "You don't have no time to explain it. Just get to the hospital." So I got my clothes on, my teeth, got my clothes on, and my wife, I got in the car. My wife drove me to the hospital. And come to find out, I had no red blood cells in my body.
No red blood cells?
That's why, because it was like I I forgot what level they called it.
So that's anemia? Is that what that is?
It's what now?
Anemia?
Yeah, I had some of that, but the blood cells were so low. They tried to figure out, did I walk in, or did I took a wheelchair? I told them I walked in. They were trying to figure out, how did I walk in.
Hmm.
And when they even put, so when they stuck the needle in, I remember hearing a snap sound, and a little bit of blood went into the vial, about that much, and they couldn't get any more blood. So then they figured they had the wrong vein or something. They kept sticking me, trying to get blood, and they couldn't get blood because I had none. And I'm going like, if they read the chart, if they see that, I had a problem with no blood, I need whatever I got in me, I'm going to need it till I get upstairs, And so I get upstairs, they run all these tests on me. Then my stomach had swelled up. And then they drained about 6 liters of fluid, 6 liters of fluid off my stomach. Yet they couldn't figure out what's going on. Like, how I had 6 liters of fluid in my stomach, and how come I don't have any red blood cells? And then they try to figure out, like, was there any difference in the stool when you go to the bathroom? Like, no, I didn't see any difference. There was no redness or I wasn't bleeding from down there. And they're trying to, they left them with they're scratching their heads. So knowing that I have some kind of history, weird history with my body right now. When I come back off this tour, I'm going to go see my doctor to make sure that the weight loss is not what it was when I first had my first downfall, because I had lost so much weight that my system had flipped. Where if I would if I missed 2 meals, I would lose a half a pound every day. You know.
But they never said what was wrong.
They couldn't. No, they didn't know what it was. Right to this day, they never figured out what it was. At least I never got any. They never called and told me. And I checked with the last time I checked with my doctor, I asked about it. She said, "God, they never told her what it was." So she checked with them, and they were like, they were clueless.
Wow. Well, take care of yourself, Dennis.
I try to.
Yeah, I mean, we want you pounding those drums for many more years. You know, and if not that, at least still with us to tell all those great stories.
Bootsy always asks me when I'm going to write a book. But then I listen to his stories. I'm going like, you should write a book. And everybody that played this music should write a book. Because, I mean, especially Maceo Parker and Mudbone Cooper.
Yeah.
I mean, they kept me laughing.
Well, I've been wanting to get both of them on, but Mudbone, now I want to pursue even more after I see you with those grins about his stories. So, yeah. What? So you're going out tomorrow you're playing with Jeff Lorber and Haslip, and does that aggregate have a name, or it's just you guys playing together?
No, it's just called the Jeff Lorber, Mike Stern, Jeff Lorber Band.
Okay. Yeah.
Mike Stern, Jeff Lorber tour.
How can people keep up with what Dennis Chambers is up to?
Well, I mean, since I'm not a big fan of Facebook, you can't get me there unless somebody else put it in there. You can always go to DennisChambers.com, go to my website and see what's going on there.
Very good. I have one more question for you that hopefully the tech will hold up for you to answer, and that was, if you look back on this great musical history that you carved out for yourself, is there anything particular that you're most proud of?
Yeah, I mean, working with the Buddy Rich Big Band, that meant a lot to me to do that, and the way they accepted me when I did it. First time I did it was with Steve Gadd, Vinnie Colaiuta, the great Lou Belson, who I ended up, becoming really tight with, and learning that he's not one of those kind of guys. He had a heart of gold. He didn't look at like who was better than who, and then he taught me like there's no best drummer. It's like the guy. Everybody had their own special way of saying the same thing. They just made it, their own. And he came out every time I was near him. He was always coming out. He was very supportive. Man, I learned a lot. I mean, I remember him telling me one day. He says, Denny. He used to call me Denny. Denny, once you close your ears, that's when you stop learning. And what he was saying was, once you close your ears, when you're not listening to any drummer or anybody else, then you need to stop playing. And I'm a big fan of musicians. I'm a big fan of drummers, and especially if somebody's got something to say. Like Steve Gadd, I was big fan of his. Big fan of Vinnie Colaiuta. Big fan of Marvin Smitty Smith. Big fan of Gary Husband. Little Mike Mitchell. These are the new guys. That's what I'm saying. Little Mike Mitchell and Jesus. There's a lot of new guys, new talent. Spud. Oh man, there's so many. And it kind of surprises me because they think that I don't listen. I'm not listening to these guys. And then when I see them, I know exactly who they are, and I shock them because I welcome, if I meet them for the first time, I throw both my hands up or up in the air and I give a big hug, and they're shocked, like they didn't think I was listening, but I am listening. That's the good thing about YouTube. That's one good thing about YouTube. You get to hear, new talent. Some of it is hogwash, and some of it is some great things. Great things coming out of some of these young players.
I was thinking about earlier when we first started talking, and you were saying you were playing at 4 and 6 years old. If YouTube was around then, you might have gone viral with, how you were playing at such a young age.
Yeah. I have to tell you this, quiet as it's kept, but I did a tour with the Jacksons one time. This was like 1980. I think it was 1980. And, we were sworn never to talk about it. In fact, we had to sign these documents that Joe Jackson proposed to us. And I can talk about it now because there's a video of Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. If you find the right one, you can see me playing drums back there. Yeah.
I'll have to look for that.
Yeah. And that was great. I mean, it's such an honor to play with them and to meet Michael and to get a chance to know him a little bit. And the guy, he was misunderstood, I thought. A lot of people look at him, they see his age, they knew his age, and they couldn't figure out why he's playing with kids. Well, I remember him telling us that the reason why he loved kids so much is because they were so honest. They're not, if they see something weird wrong with your face, they're going to ask you what's going on with your face. Where a grown up would not say anything and let you walk around, with, like a booger hanging out of your nose. They won't say nothing, Where a kid goes like, what's that hanging out of your nose, And only the kids didn't want anything. The only thing they wanted is your love and your time and to have fun. Where, when you become a superstar, the grown-ups, the only thing they care about is what can they get out of you.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't know who to trust other than kids. He couldn't trust any grown-ups that much, except for the ones that were around him that he developed some kind of friendship with, like his bodyguards and stuff like that. Special friends like Elizabeth Taylor that was around him at the time. And made sure they got him to seek help when he needed it. And I'll leave that where it knows. I remember one incident where he went to a school dressed as he put an outfit on when you couldn't recognize him. He redid his face and had a wig on, and like all that long hair, became very, he had like an afro or something, or a small afro. He had a hat on, and he waited till the kids came out, and he was walking when the bell rang. Kids were running like, he's all happy, and he's going by them. He's like touching them, touching their shoulders as he's walking up toward the school. But for him, it was just that he was connecting himself as a kid. And I remember him saying, it's like, he said, try to imagine, like you're a kid and you look out the window and you couldn't go out and play. So he never had a child, kid's life. And he was the only thing he knew about, the only thing he remembered is all this hard work he had to put into it, like all the practicing with his family, with his brothers, rehearsing, and seeing all the crazy stuff that if people didn't get it, what Joe would do to them, and it was crazy. But I remember, one rehearsal, or maybe two rehearsals, when Joe would come in the room, Michael would like leave the stage, and I found out he was in the bathroom throwing up, that kind of thing, and it was a weird thing. But Joe was just there was something weird with him. It's like I remember when I look at him, I get the chills.
Mm.
The way he looked at you, it was like, man, there's something about this guy's not right. Just like when Michael died, he's laying there in the coffin, and his father's out there promoting a record company.
Mm.
He was his number one. I mean, his son, very famous son, is in like a gold or a silver coffin. I think it's a gold coffin, laying in the inside of the building, and he's out there promoting. Promoting he's laying there promoting a company. It just didn't make any sense.
Yeah, man. Incredible generational talent and tragic story for sure.
Yeah.
But
That's what it was. It was just weird. He just cut in a different mold, I guess.
well, thanks for sharing that too. Throwing that in. And thanks for recounting everything, Dennis. I mean, all the P-Funk stuff and the jazz stuff, and much appreciate the music you've given to all of us on behalf of all the viewers and listeners. Much gratitude.
Thank you for having me, man.
Hey, back at Truth and Rhythm headquarters. Thank you for joining us on another magical ride with Truth and Rhythm. Whether you're watching or listening, as always, thank you so much for your continued interest and support. Be sure to subscribe. Go to YouTube, go to the Funkenstuff channel. That's where Truth and Rhythm lives and breathes and thrives. Also, goodies here like TIR Quick Takes. And if you subscribe, you know what? You get the show before anyone else. It's free. If you love jazz, funk, R&B, soul, you can't miss it. Pass it along. Tell a friend. Tell family. This audience is growing, and it is a beautiful thing, all coming together for the love of this great music. Also, if you can throw us a buck or two, we could use the support financially, keeping the lights on, keeping the servers going, all these expenses. If you can help support the program, whatever you can give, much appreciated. Go to the funkenstuff.net website, and on the right-hand side of every page, you just click and you can donate through PayPal, credit card, whatever. Very easy to do and so much appreciated. And if you do a sizable donation, I will mention you on the program. Also, drop me a line. Email me at ScottG@funkenstuff.net. Let me know who else you'd like to see on the show, what you enjoy about the music. Let's just kibitz and talk about stuff, talk music. You'll find that I respond very quickly, and I much enjoy the rapport and the camaraderie and the interaction. Always remember, this is your show, The True Music Lover. So for now, that's all the time we have for this one. It's a wrap. As always, Scott Dr. GX Goldfine saying, keep on vibrating to the rhythm of the one.